All right, welcome back, everyone. Got another month, another webinar. This time, joining me, Nick Augustine with Business Development Team with Grace, is Dan Haybison, our Regional Sales Manager. We're going to go over a few ways to make your maintenance department safer, smarter, and more productive. While we're waiting for everyone to log in and join us here, I wanted to go over a couple new updates. Congratulate some new additions to our team that have joined us. First one, in addition to our business development team, we hired a new coordinator that will be following up on these leads with me. Any interest that you guys have from these webinars, any questions you have on new applications as we cover these things. His name's Ben, and he'll be working with Chris and myself, hopefully joining us on a few of these future webinars as well. And one of the things he's helping with, we've gotten a lot of interest in our check vaults as we've been doing the evaluation units and launching this product since December of last year. It's created a huge amount of interest, and Ben's going to help us address that, have more of these conversations, and get these products out into your hands. So we'll have another option at the end of this webinar if you want to request an evaluation unit, install it, and evaluate it within your lockout tagout procedure. But we'll get into that a little later. As people are joining us now, I want Dan to have a chance to introduce himself and kind of explain how long you've been with the company and the history of GracePorts and what they're doing to make maintenance safer, smarter, more productive.
Well, thanks, Nick. I appreciate the invite to be with you today. And as you mentioned, I'm Dan Haybison. I've been with Grace for just over 13 years at this point. Seen a lot of different transitions over the time as far as locations and buildings and so forth. And it's been a lot of fun. And as you mentioned, we're keeping people away from live voltage and making maintenance safer, smarter, and more productive. And I really look forward to sharing some of that information with the team today.
Yeah, so GracePort, Grace Engineered Products was the original name of our company. GracePort was that founding product. Can you kind of explain how that came about? The original owner, Phil Allen, what inspired him to create that product and what made it possible to grow from a GracePort to what we're doing today?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks for bringing that one up. Phil and another team member, a member of his family, we were a system integrator at the time, and he was doing some business at a very large company in the area that needed to have some PLC programming redone. And Phil was in, and they had opened up the cabinet door and were doing the reprogramming. And the safety director for that company came by and asked a couple questions. And the first question was, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, why is that door open?
Exactly. And Phil just mentioned, "Well, we're reprogramming this. We'll be done in a few minutes." And he's like, "You're not going to be doing that here." And then proceeded to unplug the computer from the programming location and closed the door and said, "Don't come back till you have a method to do that without opening this cabinet."
Yeah, so there's a reason that's in an enclosure. We're leaving it in an enclosure. Find a better way to do that.
Correct.
All right.
And that was the innovation that sparked the idea of the GracePort.
And it seems pretty common sense, actually, to have that. Someone described it as like an extension cord from inside your cabinet to the outside. But like we said, we built that into an enclosure. So to put a port on there to allow you to access it seems like the intelligent way to go about accessing that, especially if you have like bolts that you have to take off to get inside.
But it's one of those things, though. There's still a lot of conversation that takes place. Well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
So we've always opened the cabinet door. And that's where bad things can happen. You change the environment, you have cold air rushing in, other types of things. You can kick up dust and contaminants. It's just not a good thing.
Yeah. So what's that look like? We use Bernie and Les a lot. That's a little comic strip, if you guys are familiar with that, because it tells a story pretty easily. But what does programming a PLC look like with a GracePort versus without? What kind of differences are you seeing there?
Well, looking over your left shoulder, you see you've got the people there doing the work. He's actually plugging inside the unit. Again, it was that hazard level, and then going from the outside, you simply open the cover of the GracePort, plug into the appropriate communication device, and do your programming, make your adjustments, gather the production data, whatever the case may be.
All right. So there's applications where you're able to lower the number of people involved in the process. the speed, if essentially speed looks like the number one, but are there a few different industries that you've seen, different applications, different successes? I know we've talked a lot about HVAC and the different kind of environmental effects you can have with that. What are some examples you have with that?
So environments that have access to a lot of contaminants. So think about your steel industry, your coal applications, your HVAC stuff. We've done a lot of work historically with a lot of rooftop units from manufacturers because that's typical. It's usually bad weather conditions when there's some sort of a problem and a service engineer needs to get on site and get into the cabinets.
Never when it's sunny. It's never a beautiful day when your HVAC unit goes down, is it?
Correct. Or your heater accordingly. But now you're up on a roof. It's been raining. You're standing in an inch or two of water. You're going to open up a cabinet door, expose it to the elements. So much easier and quicker just to use a small GracePort right on the front, open the cover, plug in, log in, make the adjustments, grab the information that you need, close the cover, and walk away.
All right. And as far as those environmental ratings that you're discussing, like if it's raining, if it's snowing and all that, the enclosures, we have NEMA 1 or UL 1 open face all the way through stainless steel. You want to go through a couple of the options of what we have available? And
sure, just to refresh everybody's knowledge of the size, here's one of our smaller units. It's actually the B housing that we call it. In this case, it's really designed for just a couple of components. In this case, it is the USB. You have two different units. As far as the enclosure rating, it is NEMA 1 or UL type 1, which would be not in a housing, but the housings are type 4, 4X, stainless 416, I'm sorry, 316 and
okay, 304. I think 304 and 316 stainless steel.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we also have some that are a little different in its color. That gives you a little bit higher rating from a chemical resistance perspective.
Okay.
But functionally the same GracePort as this one, but it has a different rating regarding the coating.
Okay, that specific one we've got, it creates a lot of interest. So explain that, what that piece is. And
so
these can all, the GracePorts, if you guys aren't familiar, they're all completely customizable. We can configure these with almost any component in them in any configuration. We've got, it's like 15 to 20,000 different part numbers. Depending on the application, they're very easy and we can go through that. But this has been one of the more popular components that we've been including. So yeah, what do we got here, Dan?
Yeah, so real quickly, a lot of the industrial control cabinets, especially on the production floor at different facilities, have been in service for a long period of time. And what makes this unique is as the technology has increased in the different components inside of the cabinet that need an Ethernet connection has increased. This device has become very popular. And what we're showing here today is actually a four-port unmanaged switch, and you can access it from the outside. You simply plug in your port here, and you can see which of the backside the Ethernet connections are made. You can see from the front who's talking nice and who's not talking nice. And if there is, in the unlikely event that you need to have a reset, we did add the reset button to the front of the unit. So you simply hold that in, let it recycle. And just like your internet at home, every once in a while, it seems to need a reset for whatever reason.
Okay.
So again, we do it from the outside so you don't ever have to open up that cabinet door. And we're able to add this to existing equipment inexpensively and let it expand as far as the technology that's available inside.
Okay.
So,
are you seeing that more? Are you expecting that to be retrofit on a cabinet once it's in a facility, or are you looking at that to be included in OEM, like when the equipment's delivered? Is that you see that on both sides, or?
Yes. So we'll see a lot of retrofit on those older industrial control cabinets that are in the field, but also in a lot of different new equipment. Some customers are specifying it right up front, and they're looking at their future needs as they do so.
All right.
So
what I've been seeing, I talked to a lot of customers about these, and the ones that aren't aware of GracePorts, what comes up a lot is this is one of our more standard configurations. It's got a GFCI outlet, a 3-amp circuit breaker, Ethernet port. It's pretty much essential for what you need for programming. If you're going to quick access, we're going to plug into your Ethernet port. A lot of comms go over Ethernet now, and have the ability to charge your computer. One of the new innovations, Grace is always moving forward with that. I think this outlet style is patented to us, right?
Correct.
This inside outlet.
Yep.
So on the inside of this one, you're able to plug in from the inside of your cabinet as well. And that's one of the innovations that Grace has found really useful in that product line. But what we've been seeing a lot of people move towards is this little USB style charging device. So what this gives you the ability to do is a lot of the computers now are charging off of USB-C. It's becoming standardized. So you can charge with this and have an Ethernet port next to it. You can eliminate the need for an outlet. Yes, and there's an example of the Ethernet with the USB-C. But then there's no transformer inside your cabinet. There's no 110 volts going to the door. And there's no extension cord that can be plugged in and draped across the factory. No trip hazards and no misuse. So this only connects to a power supply inside. It's just a charging component. And then that gets your communications. So that's been a lot of a popular transition lately as computers are updating and as maintenance teams are getting standardized on that type of equipment.
Yeah, and a lot of production workers are actually utilizing portable devices that aren't a computer, but are just little handhelds that operate off of 24 volts DC. They can charge their phone there. They can use that to coordinate power and communication and do whatever they need to do.
Yeah,
without adding the 115 volts.
Yeah, on the commissioning side, I've had people add this charge port to an outlet, just because commissioning equipment, you don't have enough power sources anyways. So whether it's a data logger or their phone for a hotspot or a router to get a connection established, usually more power, but however we can bring it in and supply it, we're able to configure these. So if you have a unique application, that's kind of the fun discussion to have with us because we can turn that around so fast. So can you kind of explain the history? Grace has always made these customizable. We've known each application's unique to a point, repeatable, but unique in its ingenuity. What are some of the ways that we've done this in the past, and how have we made it more streamlined to be able to, if I have a conversation with a customer, make up a new part number that's never existed and put their logo on it? How am I able to do that within an hour and give them back a finished product they can order with an image, a drawing? That seems really fast turnaround for a new product development.
Yeah, it really is. But you have to know deep in our DNA here at Grace is the desire and the commitment to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, thankfully, the family has taken a good aggressive approach to inventory and fluctuation availability of different components.
All right.
So we can have conversations with customers that still talks about some of the historical devices like a DB9, a DB15, all the different old connector types. And what we do is stock these individual components and then have them readily available to manufacture for a customer. So if we get a call and the customer wants a inside outlet, Ethernet connection, a Cat 4, Cat 5, we've got it on the shelf. Cat 6, we've got the unmanaged switch version. We've got all sorts of different choices for them. They just tell us which one they want. And then the way our manufacturing is set up, the actual go and pick the devices, pick the communication ports, the outlets, and so forth. And then we assemble it. And within 2 to 3 days, out the door it goes.
Yeah. So, and that's from adding a logo or anything on there. We have a process. If anyone's interested in private labeling, putting their own logo on the Grace ports, it does. It really only takes 30 minutes. We're right on top of it, an hour if we're going a little slow. But it's a quick turnaround, and we'll be able to customize to your application. You get to drive more interest in that product and that solution back to your company. So it's a really unique way. But you were telling me, I believe we used to paint these things by hand, and we've kind of updated that a little bit, or a lot. Yeah, so, I consider that a big update.
So historically, if we go back to the 2012, 2013, 2014 era, we were laser engraving and then we would back paint accordingly. So if we got a 250 piece order, we may have different products laid out in different spots as we painted it white for the background, and then red for the logo information, and black for what was engraved in what it said. So, we shifted away from that, and now we use UV printing, and it works out phenomenally. And we actually UV print on the back side of the faceplate, so then it's clear to the front. That makes it extremely durable. It's there forever.
Yeah,
it's not going to change.
I don't get bad quality remarks out of the GracePorts. That's one thing consistent with our customer base is that once they've used them, they're pretty proud of the products and continue using them.
Yeah, and as far as the logo goes and the opportunity to add the logo, we can do that for the customer. We just ask that we get a JPEG, a high quality JPEG, so somewhere around 600 DPI or greater. Sometimes they can go a little bit less, but then we can add it to the system, assign a U code to it, and then that's that customer's to use.
Yeah. So the company I was at previously, we could private label, but there was like a minimum order requirement or an additional charge per unit that you did that to. Grace has got this streamlined to where there's no charge. You can order one and there's no price difference. If it's off the shelf, if it's this configuration, or if it's a new one with your logo on it and a USB-C charge port, there's no additional charge for throwing that logo in there, the process we go through.
Right. And actually it goes back to that earlier commitment that I had mentioned, where our desire is to satisfy the customer, take care of the need, and say yes. So one of the things that's happened is through that process, we've figured out different ways where we can incorporate, grab the logo, and then we literally, with the back printing on the backside, we can actually just print that right onto the unit. So that's what makes that readily available and quick to do. You had mentioned a half hour. It's going to be a little longer than a half hour, but I like the aggressiveness.
24 minutes was my record so far.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. When a customer sent me their logo, I got it to Troy, and he sent it back, and I think it was back in the customer's hands, a faceplate generated the drawing so he knew what he was receiving. And I think it was 24 minutes that we did that.
Yeah.
It blew my socks off that we were that quick at turning that around.
And that's what makes it fun to be surrounded by good quality people and driving towards the same goal.
So a little bit of the history of the company. We are a second generation family owned business. So can you explain that? Because I came into Grace, I'm still within my first year. So I was hired by Drew Allen, our current CEO. But you said Phil Allen started the company as dad. So Can you explain that kind of that angle, let people know a little familiar with Grace and where we've come, where we're going? And
Sure. So I mentioned that it is family owned, and Drew has taken over as our CEO a couple of years ago, probably 3 years ago now, and is now leading us into the future. Since that time, we've extended our IIoT line dramatically. We've got lots of different new products in the works. You all have participated in several of our websites, thankfully, and we appreciate that. You're seeing some of the new technologies that we're working on. And we're continued to making maintenance smarter, safer, and more productive in a lot of the products that we're coming out with. And we're trying to give more information to the maintenance and operations team on those critical assets. We're wanting to maintain the safety. And I know you know this, but just as a quick review, 70% of all injuries take place during unplanned shutdown.
Yes. When you're reacting, you're trying to speed things up, get the money back coming in instead of flooding out.
So people will do things that they normally wouldn't do. So what we want to do is to shift that away, give them an opportunity to see some of those transitions in advance, and then plan to react rather than react.
That makes sense. So one of the things that you talked about, it brought back a memory of a conversation we were having, is that we stock a lot of these components and we have the quick 2 to 3 day turnaround, getting them out the door. You've mentioned a stat that seemed pretty amazing over our on-time delivery over the past few years, especially coming out of COVID with everyone having supply chain issues. What does that look like for us? Because that seemed like we had a pretty significant amount of on-time delivery confirmed out the door products.
Yeah, and what it looked like to us is we recently put the information together. We had a rep meeting with all our reps, and we had looked back, and over the last basically 2.5 years, so through COVID and up to today, we went back and analyzed the time from order to the time from shipment, and during that time, 89% of all orders shipped within 4 days. I'm not to say that we were absolutely perfect and everything was wonderful. We shipped everything, but 89% of all orders were shipped within 4 days. We're very proud of that.
Yeah, I remember orders taking 16 months, 18 months when you put it in. It was stuff that used to take a week. It just disappeared.
Yeah.
So that's great to be able to support customers and be able to rely on a product showing up. That's another way that Grace makes us all safer, smarter, more productive, because consistency and being able to do the same procedure in a repeated, safe way is one of the easiest ways to be safe. The whole practice like you play. I came to Grace from the fire side, so the whole responding to emergencies after they've started is kind of where my mindset is.
Correct.
And you have to have that level-headed, we know how to do this, we know the tools in place, and we're going to use them and do this safely. And that's what Grace is making. They're making the tools that you're going to use every day. But when a disaster happens and you're responding, you're going to be safe and coordinated in that response instead of running into a burning building, hoping you can avoid injury yourself.
Sure.
So,
yep. And really, the beauty of that, one of the things that we used to talk about a lot, and we kind of aren't using it as aggressively as we were, is at the end of the day, we want everybody to go home in the same condition that they came in, and no injuries, no problems, no reactions to an unplanned shutdown, and everything is fine.
Yes. And as far as durability of these things, nothing's going to happen to these, but I'm really hoping that you can use that mallet that you brought in over there and give us a demonstration of how durable these things actually are and how they're going to ensure that people are going home safe. So,
Nick brings up a great point, and we get the question quite frequently: how durable is the GracePort? And with the GracePort, when you take that unit, you get it mounted up onto the cabinet. Now, this is one that I just grabbed. It was right outside, just to show the cover itself. The baseline of the GracePort is this housing, right? And then we change what we put into it from there. So we've had a lot of questions over the years: is how durable is the GracePort? And I'd just like to introduce you to Mr. GracePort. Hammer, hammer, hammer. Mr. GracePort, how are you? Oh, you're feeling well. Open right up.
So I've seen videos, a few older videos when we were promoting this of employees dropping these off the building, doing what they can to see if they could break them. And the durability of these, we will get some updated videos. So if you guys want to see us throw these from anywhere, email Nick and let him know. We'll go on location for these. But they are extremely durable. And then we do have a few stainless steel ones. You want to talk about a couple of the stainless steel options and where you're seeing applications in those?
So the stainless steel area continues to grow. We actually have a couple different versions. We talked about the 304 and the 316 stainless. We have a little bit larger unit than this one, so you can add more functionality to it. It's about 2.5 inches longer, about an inch longer in height, and it's about half the thickness. And it just gives you the opportunity. We call it the JB7 is the code to use for it, and it is readily available, and it matches the enclosure rating. So if you have a 304 or 316 stainless cabinet,
you want to add an outlet to it, USB-C charge port or an Ethernet switch,
all the different things.
All right,
exactly. So another good question there.
All right, and then we've been talking with a couple material handling companies, and we have I don't have an example of it, but we have a surface mount type outlet.
Correct.
And a couple of other unique products we can talk about. Do we have a slide for this little IP68 connector? So these are handy for a different environmental rating, but we have IP68. It easily connects. We have USBs and Ethernet ports. And why don't you explain where this idea came from and what difference between using a GracePort and why you want to look at possibly using these?
Sure. So a lot of times you maybe just need the USB connection or you just need an Ethernet connection, but your environment may be one where you're going to have water and spray and hose down
Mm-hmm.
even during your production.
Okay.
And what this does is gives you the opportunity to use an IP68 rated device that you can actually screw the connection onto, and it is watertight and won't leak. And that's both at the cabinet itself and on the outside.
Okay. So a nice lower cost way if you don't need an entire GracePort, but you need IP68.
Correct.
That looks like a 22 mil that would go.
Yes.
All
and
right.
Very quick, easy to install. Again, the IP68 rating, which is substantial, and the flexibility, you can add it wherever you want to do it. They're sold in packs of 5 and readily available. And we've got the Ethernet, USB, and
Yeah, there's ones with cabled versions where you have the few foot cable running out or just a bulkhead. All right. Is there any other innovations that you want to talk about? It's that surface mount one. So you can do an outlet if you don't want to make a modification to the panel or at least a cutout for the outlet. Can you explain that surface mount style? And
Sure. Well, the whole beauty of the surface mount style is you're not going to cut into your industrial control cabinet at all. And you can actually just mount it with a couple screws, and it actually rests on the outside. It could be on the side of the cabinet, could be on the front.
okay,
Most of the time,
'cause
it's
you're
on
not
the side.
always going to have room to shove that 3
Correct.
inches back into a panel.
Exactly.
All right. So we
Yep.
can mount it on the outside. That sits on the outside.
Yep.
All right. When you see that in material handling, is they generally limited, or why is that?
So the reason material handling likes it is because you can just mount it anywhere on that control cabinet. And a lot of times it's bringing things that don't necessarily need a lot of regular access, and you can have power running through it or something else. But when you do need to have that communication, it's nice to have it outside of the cabinet and available.
Okay. All right. And then we will have time. If you guys have any questions, Nick, I don't know if anything's been rolling in on the GracePorts on any applications for them. We will have 10, 15 minutes, depending on how busy that gets, to answer and address any of those questions. But do you have any stories that you want to share on the applications? Any unique things that you've seen in the industry, or?
I think really I'd like to share our best ideas for products and for modifications to GracePorts and so forth actually come from our customers because they know what they need. They have very intentional purposes for these, and just reach out and share the information with us, and we will react accordingly. And, to go from 2 or 3 different products in the mid 90s as this got started, all the way to where we're at today with over 18,000, along with the multiple housing types and enclosure ratings. That's all been customer driven. And we appreciate the opportunity to go to market and to solve the customer's application. And we'll be as flexible as possible and as fast as possible in the response.
Yeah. So one of the things I love, I love meeting people that use GracePort. It's very fun. Automation Fair, one of the best times of the year because everybody knows GracePort. But at ProMat, Greg and I took the opportunity to walk around a bit and went to a lot of other stations just to see who was out there, who was using GracePort, who might we not have known about. And when we walked up and introduced ourselves to some of you might be watching this, but it was really fun to see the reaction and people just confirming the difference in their lives it makes when they use a GracePort on something, especially with their robotics applications. One of the cleanest things is that it gives you a more professional look. When you don't have to, when you're setting something up or commissioning it, you have to open up a panel and dig inside of it. If you can just walk up and plug into the outside of it, look a little more organized, and a finished look is what it provides. And people get really proud of that and the quality of it. Then they get excited that they can put their own name logo on it. And it's a fun conversation. So, but it's all inspired by our customers. That's our top company value is customer obsession. So there's a big focus on that. So no matter what your application is, if there's a way for us to make it safer, smarter, or more productive for you, we're all ears. We'd love to hear it because you're probably not the only one with that experience going on right now.
Yeah. And that being said, as far as availability goes, we work with we have a very strong distributor network, not only throughout the United States and Canada, but also worldwide at this point.
Yeah, even the components.
Absolutely.
You can get international outlets, you can get universal things. So yeah, no matter where your supply chain takes you.
Yeah, you might be manufacturing in Newcastle, Indiana, but shipping your product everywhere in the world, and just know that we're readily available to go with you regarding the power outlets and communication types and so forth.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We have stuff getting installed down in Australia right now. I was talking to somebody about, so hoping to make a trip down there and check it out in the field.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe I'll wait till winter on that one. Go down when it's nice out.
Yeah. Well, they're just going into their winter.
Yeah.
So.
Go skiing.
Yeah.
I don't have any other stories that I came prepared to share. So if we want to open it up, Nick, do you have any questions that came in there or anything that people want a little more explanation into? I will give people the opportunity now. I said we would for these check volts. If you are interested in an evaluation unit, we have been getting a lot of positive response on these check volts. So a way to speed up your lockout tagout procedure, it's a permanently installed safety device, PESD is what we call them, but it's got 4 leads coming out of it. One will go to each phase, L1, L2, L3, one to ground. It gives you troubleshooting capabilities. For mechanical lockout tagout, you're going to be able to identify a phase imbalance, or if you drop a phase. If you get a stuck blade while you're isolating equipment, that's going to indicate, showing you that voltage is still present when that shouldn't be. And then the ability to test with a voltmeter through the device, phase to phase and phase to ground, is where it's impacting electrical lockout tagout procedures. And one of the most impactful ones, there's cases where there's 3 people required for lockout tagouts, and which is a significant personnel requirement. So if you can bring that test point to normal operating conditions instead of inside a high exposure cabinet, then you can alleviate the amount of people required for that procedure, get something back to operational status, and move on without the impact that it takes, especially if you need an arc flash suit or somebody standing by with a hook. The impact that the check vault has for just a few $100s, the quick, easy add, 1 30 mil knockout, 4 leads, really easy to verify that it's installed correctly. No failure points in between this and your source power. If you want one to evaluate, let us know. We're working through it. We hired some people to help us keep up with it, but it has made an impact in the industry. So if you want to see how it can make an impact in your daily work, let us know.
And remember, that plays right into that core value of making sure everybody goes home in the same condition they came in.
Yeah. People have understood that with the check vault. So if you've requested an evaluation unit, we'll get to you as fast as we can. We're happy to help you guys out, but definitely happy to get these in hands if you think it can make an impact on your unit. And then same thing with our IIoT. If you're interested in the vibration monitoring or the GraceSense, the hotspot monitor for bus connections or medium voltage equipment, we can get a demo out of that. We can have more of a conversation. Do a lunch and learn with a distributor to your site. We've set up a lot of different things. So we have a lot of resources, a lot of hands that we can reach out to for assistance, either from headquarters here in Davenport, Iowa, locally, or here, or locally, wherever you are. We have our manufacturers reps, our distributor teams that are able to get out and help go over any of these applications, any of the PESDs or the GraceSense.
Yeah, and I guess another good resource to mention is GracePort.com.
Yep.
A lot of the products are up there and listed. There is installation guides. There is technical information, all sorts of different information available. So feel free to go there also, find the information there, and then source out a local distributor accordingly.
All right. And then people have asked, because there's 20,000 different part numbers or somewhere near. I don't know if anyone's keeping track that close. But as far as configuration, whether or not one existed, what can be created, or if they don't know the specific kind of port, we've had people just send in pictures. Sure. Because we deal with these every day.
Yes.
We know the components, what they are, how they can arrange, and what size enclosure. So if someone were to just take a picture saying, hey, this is what I'm dealing with, or a list of this is what's inside a cabinet, how do I communicate with it? we can just turn that around. We don't need them to go through 20,000 components and pick out.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of times it's faster to call in, talk to our inside sales team, and tell them exactly what you're looking for. You want a USB type A male, and you want a power outlet, and it's single outlet, 120 volts. Okay. You want a GFCI. Okay. They'll walk you through it because they know the part numbers well, confirm it with you, send you a drawing or a picture of it accordingly, depending on its location. They may take you to the website and show you, and they'll close the loop real quickly. So anything that you can think of, don't be shy. Go ahead and reach out, and we'll respond as fast as we can.
All right. How about now, Nick? Has anyone given us a question to lob back to him?
Yeah. So first off, thank you all for attending. If you've been coming to our webinars for as many years as we've been putting them on, we use GoToWebinar. This is the first time on Teams. So I know a few people have said that they don't have video, but thankfully, this webinar has been mostly just a conversation, kind of a podcast style. But we are recording this. We will send a link out to everybody who has registered and attended today. So if you're not, these guys are good looking, and we'll make sure you can see their faces. Aside from that, just a question on check volt. Is it a UL 1436 absence of voltage tester? We've gotten this question before. Can you guys explain the difference between UL 1436 and UL 61010?
So there's probably two different ways to approach this. I can do it. I don't have the standards background, but from non-technical words of explaining it, the check volt is not testing for absence of voltage. The check volt is moving that testing location to the outside of the door so that you can test with your testing device, which is going to be your voltmeter, through the check volt and test your source power. So it's not, because it's not performing the device. Is that what that question is addressing, to your knowledge, Dan?
Correct. So an AVT listed to 1436 was put into the UL 1436 area because it didn't necessarily meet the standard under UL 61010, which all your safety and electrical measurement devices are tested to. And the UL 1436 was created for the AVT, which is a push to test device.
Because it's testing your absence of voltage.
Correct.
Okay.
So what we've done is, as you just mentioned, is we've brought the energy to the outside of the cabinet. We actually have a high impedance circuit, so we reduce the available current when you're taking your measurement. The electricians and the safety team and a lot of the maintenance people trust their meter. They want to use their meter. They're going to come up to the unit. They're going to see that it is flashing. They're going to take their meter, go to a known source or approving unit that's hanging on their belt. They'll measure that it is working. They will insert the probes. They visibly see the lights flashing. Then they'll insert the probes, measure the voltage level.
Mm-hmm.
Then they will throw the disconnect. As they throw the disconnect, then any stored energy in a variable frequency drive or anything like a transformer, anything with capacitors in it, that energy will be dissipating. They're going to take their meter, reinsert, measure that there is no voltage, verify there is no voltage visually, and then go back to the known source, verify the meter's working. And what we do is we create that process. It's very straightforward. It's in full compliance with the codes and standards, and it's done in an environment where you're never exposed to the arc flash hazard.
Okay.
And yet you're following your company's guidelines for the proper lockout tagout.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the only time a lockout tagout works perfectly is when the people, the products, and the process all align at the same time and verify that there is no energy.
Mm-hmm. So that's one of the key points that I hear a lot of feedback is the same thing. When you're responding to downtime, to unplanned downtime, and you're trying to move quick, that's when people are doing things that they're not used to doing, or they're trying to rush. So a lot of that mentality says, follow your training, do things the way that you've always known are safe. And people don't want to put down that voltmeter. So that's a tool that they know can save their life. And they're going to put it in there and test phase to phase before they stick their hand in there, before they open that cabinet up. And that's not a tool that our customer base wants to set down and put away. So as we discuss designs for these things, we've come up with ideas and different ways to approach this, and we've taken a lot of feedback from customers. Every application is unique, so and we take these into round tables and discuss. But what we've found is that we don't want to put away that voltmeter because it's used. Everyone knows how to use it, and they know that that's their lifeline. That if that says it's clear, that they can go in. So and we understand the importance of that when we're making these devices, and that every one of them has to work because someone using that device is trusting their life on it. So, but that's the route we're going. That's why we have the standards that we're following and the certifications that we have, is because we're using it in conjunction with a voltmeter test, because that's how our customers want to test for absence of voltage.
Correct. Yep.
So is that customer obsession? So we're going to go with what everyone wants. So if you guys have ideas, honestly, give us feedback. We have a team full of engineers here who love having these conversations, throwing up hypotheticals. Well, if we thought about it this way, or if you look at it this way, those are fun conversations. That's one of the things I enjoy about working here, the collaborative lunches and all sorts of meetings with everyone. It's really innovative styles of conversation. So,
like I said, the best ideas that we've gotten have always been on behalf of the customer, and the ideas come from the customer as far as what they need, what they would like, and what they see in their future. So we have a lot of those conversations and get as much voice of customer information as possible.
all right. And we have been focusing, I know we're trying to talk about GracePorts and a few other ways to keep maintenance safe, smart, and productive. And we will get back to the electrical safety devices. I think next month is National Electrical Safety
Correct.
Month.
Yep.
So we'll have a good conversation there. Probably will include a lot of information like this about the electrical safety devices that we have. And then the following month, I think we're going to push into the IIoT again. Try to get some predictive maintenance and the trending, and let you guys see what we're capable of there, what advancements we've had. But a lot of the electrical safety devices, those codes and everything, we'll discuss next month too. Some of the future designs I imagine we'll come up with. So we're looking at DC applications. We're looking at different combinations of products to fit different needs. So if you guys have interests or inquiries on any applications, let us know. Next month, we'll put all those together and try to address all that, because it is Electrical Safety Month. We might as well go through the questions that you guys want answered and make sure we hit them, because otherwise you're going to hear us say the same things eventually over and over again on these webinars. You got any other questions coming back there?
Yes. And speaking of check volt too, and electrical safety, by the way, every month is Electrical Safety Month at Grace Tech, but tomorrow next month we'll focus big on it. So we have a poll. I'm going to run this poll right now. Nick had mentioned earlier on in the webinar, if you would be interested in an evaluation unit, we can talk to you guys about these. So we'll go ahead and run this. And then we did have another question regarding check volt.
It's been popular.
Yes. So let's see. Go back to chat here. The question was, do you have a self-checking meter for Live Dead Live that can plug into the check volt instead of using a portable multimeter? This could help simplify non-electrical personnel and lockout tagout. I know last time we did check volt, we talked about in the webinar, we had that the fluke proving unit that we were using as an example. Yep. I don't know if that's what we're getting at here, but you guys have a perspective?
So we don't have a device that you actually insert into the check volt unit. We are using, for example, the fluke proving unit to test the meter. That's typically worn on the operations person or the maintenance person's belt, and it's handy, so it's right there at the point of work.
Yeah, from my understanding, I think you start getting into the who's qualified to perform lockout tagout procedures, and I don't know what kind of gray area you get into with those testers, because I know electrically qualified personnel versus mechanical.
Right.
Is there any concern there when looking at that kind of device, or?
There's always concern there.
Yeah.
In that respect. I mean, you think about it. So if somebody comes up to a cabinet and they really don't know what's inside the cabinet, but they feel authorized to push a button, they can open up that cabinet, and the first thing they do is they get in the cabinet and they put their hand in on top of the disconnect.
Yeah, that happens.
And exactly. And they're now touching the incoming source, the live conductors. That could be 480 volts at several hundred amps, but they don't know that that hazard exists.
Mm-hmm.
So they shouldn't be in the cabinet to begin with, but they felt authorized to be able to push a button.
All right. That restricted access brings up a point too we didn't talk about on the GracePorts.
Right.
But the tool access and all that, so keeping people out of the outlets and everything. You hear all sorts of stories about the vacuums getting plugged in and
Floor scrubbers,
hammer drills,
anything to go in and create a whole bunch of noise on your nice quiet network.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if needed, these things, these GracePorts can go tool access. So you have a little screw, you can latch that. It's got a little slot you can put a lock through. So if you need to restrict access, those are capable. If you want to hide everything completely, stainless steel is the way to go there. But yeah, as far as who should be accessing electrical equipment and
They should be qualified workers. That's it.
Yeah, and that's going to be the overall part of your the procedures that you're training on and the standards that you're holding within a company.
Exactly. Anything else, Nick?
Yeah. Did we talk about the inside outlet on the GracePort?
We did a little bit.
Nick,
it is a patented thing, and you've had a lot more experience with that. But maybe go over the installation of that and why that's unique.
So really, what it does is it gives you the opportunity to see if you're going to wire it, your incoming, and then your outgoing, and you're going to have energy now at this outlet come around up front.
No. You just close around the table.
Yeah, get up here.
I see.
This little area.
So here's what it's going to look like from the front. Closer.
Lower.
All right. Sorry about this.
You're in frame.
Our screen is gone. So you've got a Ethernet. You've got a small 3-amp circuit breaker, and then you've got the outlet itself. So what we do is we put the inside outlet, gives you that utility outlet on the inside, so you could plug in something that's inside the cabinet and have that energy available and can use it accordingly. And it's very quick, very convenient, and it's just a simple add-on to the GracePort. You don't need to find a spot inside the unit to try to put in that auxiliary outlet. Other questions, Nick?
I think that's it for now. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and hit the chat tab, and we'll keep it going here. Otherwise, if I don't see anything come through.
Hey, what do we got for events coming up? I'm heading down to Offshore Technology Conference. I'll be down in Houston next week. Wow, that came up fast.
They usually do.
Yeah, we have a team in Evansville right now. I think CED's doing a roadshow there. Just got someone back from Louisville.
Yep, we got Automate coming up.
Automate, that's Detroit, right?
That's in Detroit. That's 2 weeks out, I think.
Wow, that came up fast too.
Maybe, no, it might be a little longer. I'm not sure.
All right, if anyone else, come swing by, stop and see us at Automate. That'd be a fun show. We'll have all this stuff out, have a few new innovations that we can discuss. There are new designs. So I kept being told not to tell you guys what they are just yet, but we are working on new innovations in GracePort. That's a product line that is not going to die. This is common sense things where our goal is to make them easier to install, easier to use. You got to make it more convenient and easier to do the right thing than the wrong thing.
Correct.
So that's one of the key things of safety is if it's easier to do it the safe way, people are going to do it the safe way. But if you make it easier to do it the unsafe way, that's where you're going to start finding issues. So big focus is constant, continuous improvement of the product line.
Yeah, no question. No doubt.
But yeah, come share your ideas. Automate, OTC, that'd be a fun one. Where's anything else coming up?
I think that's the major ones. Yeah.
We got Automation Fair out in Boston this year. The combining Rock Live with Automation Fair, so we'll be out there as well. Probably some international things. That's more Chris.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I think you guys did such a good job. Nobody has any questions. You must have answered everything.
That's fantastic.
Well, we'll just go with that.
Yeah, we'll be ready for you guys next month. Feel free to give us any feedback, any questions that you want addressed. That'll be a fun open forum conversation going through a lot of questions and a big focus on Electrical Safety Month there. Reach out to us if you're interested in getting an evaluation unit, a custom application with a GracePort, and interest in what we can do internationally. If you want to see if you have a component that we haven't included in one, go for it. But otherwise, yeah, thanks for joining us for this webinar. Look forward to seeing you on the future ones. And we appreciate your time.
And for all of you that are our current customers, we thank you for your business. It's a pleasure to serve you and meet all your needs. Again, our ideas come from customers, so share those ideas with us and we'll react accordingly. And until next month, stay safe, stay well. We'll see you then.